Hello, we're back. We're back for Compulsion, albeit online. Welcome to Compulsion Lite. We are Scotland's oldest tabletop role playing convention, and while we are on hiatus this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we decided to do a series of online events called Compulsion Lite. And we're starting off this weekend by having this Compulsion charity live stream. So we are doing this charity live stream to raise money for Empty Kitchens Full Hearts. They're a local charity that support people who are experiencing food insecurity as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. They're a small charity, and any little money we donate can go a really long way. And we feel Empty Kitchens Full Hearts have been doing fantastic work in the last couple of years. Since about 2020, they've provided over 1 million healthy meals to people experiencing food insecurity. And the work that they do really supports people who are really facing the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic and are really affected the most severely by the inequalities within our society. So that's why we are as proud to support Empty Kitchens Full Hearts as we are humbled by the timeliness and urgency of the work they do. So yes, if you're watching our live stream, we'd more than welcome donations to Empty Kitchens Full Hearts. Any small amount you donate will go a long way. So £15 can feed one person for 10 days, and £42 can feed a family of four for a week. So please do give whatever you can because every little bit you contribute will really help people who are in need. And we acknowledge that we have a lot of people watching our stream from around the world this time. So if you would rather donate to a local charity that's closer to where you are, then you're more than welcome to donate to a charity in your area. Having said all that, I'm just going to introduce myself very quickly and tell you about what we're doing today. So my name is Vivek Santayana, my pronouns are he, him, and I will be GMing this game for this evening. I'm assisted by Claire Bath, Holly Rankin, and Sophie Hine, who are moderating the Twitch chat. We're going to be playing a game of Masks, A New Generation by Brendan Conway, published by Magpie Games. This is a game about teenage superheroes. Or rather, it's about teenagers who happen to be superheroes. This is very much in the vein of comics like X-Men or Young Avengers or Spider-Man, where not only are you trying to fight crime and supervillainy, but you're trying to figure out where you fit in a world that has expectations of who you are and whom they feel you ought to be. So this game will last for about 3 hours, and we'll have a short break halfway through. And in a minute, I'll be asking my fellow players to introduce themselves and their characters. But before I do that, I'm going to go through some really important safety stuff right from the get go. So, as always, we take the safety of our players and our audience very seriously. The age rating for this game is PG. I anticipate that there will be some comic book action and that kind of cartoonish violence, possible romance between characters, and also some swearing. In addition, our table has agreed that we shall avoid the following themes in all circumstances: sexual assault, child abuse, transphobia, suicide, self harm, racism, and characters being hit with acid. These topics will not come up in any form whatsoever during this game. We've also agreed that should any of the following topics come up, they will never come up directly or be role played or narrated on camera, but we will fade to black and only reference them indirectly. And these themes are graphic sexual content, gore, animal cruelty, and graphic violence. So the players and I have also talked about safety, and we've agreed that should any content or anything at the table make us feel uncomfortable or make this game unenjoyable, we'll take a short break and talk about this off camera. We're going to do this by using the T card. The T stands for timeout. We'll call for a break and we'll talk about this off camera and we'll resolve whatever needs resolving before we come back live again. These safety tools are a normal part of gameplay, and we at Compulsion and at GS more generally advocate a safe and inclusive play culture. Now, whilst our players are more than able to have this discussion both on camera and behind the scenes, we acknowledge that our audience don't have the same kind of access to the safety tools that our players do. So if ever you as an audience member find that there's content here that makes you uncomfortable, feel free to step back, take a short break, give yourself some time to come back into the game, and once you're feeling comfortable, you can come back in when you're ready. We'd also like to urge our audience to follow our rules in our Twitch chat and to be kind, compassionate, and thoughtful to each other. We will not tolerate any kind of degrading or derogatory comments, conduct, or language, and our chat mods will remove people if necessary. So that's all the safety stuff out of the way. I'm now going to get to the fun part of what we're doing, and that is, well, asking my players to introduce themselves. So let's start with you, Claire. Do you want to tell me your name, your pronouns, your character's name, your character's pronouns, and tell me what your character looks like, and just give me a brief description about them?
Hi there, everyone. I'm Claire. My pronouns are they, them, and today I'm going to be playing Steel, the bull in Masks, and she uses she, her pronouns. She's a white young girl who's got calloused hands and wears kind of like cheerleader's costume but crossed with leather and that's gone through the wars. So yeah, that's me.
Right. Erik, do you want to go next?
Yes. So I am Erik, pronouns they, he, she, and I will be playing Badongzuboing, or Zoo for short, using Z, her pronouns. And Zoo is a like stunning alien with neon skin, shape shifting abilities, and clothes that tend to be very sort of a lot of parts that float, and a lot of parts that sort of draft behind them or behind Z.
Amazing. Right. In that case, Melena, do you want to go next?
Yeah, of course. Hi, I'm Melena. I primarily use she, her, but I'm also okay with they, them. And I'm going to be playing Tosh, she, her, the delinquent in Masks. Tosh is Native American. She's got long, like straight, sleek black hair, jaded eyes, and she really likes wearing bright, sort of neon streetwear-esque clothing, a lot of very angular, boxy shapes. That's she thinks is really cool and edgy.
Well, I mean, she's not alone. Right. And finally, Bilal, do you want to introduce yourself and your character?
Sure. Hi, I'm Bilal. My pronouns are he, him. I'm going to be playing Slugman, who, I mean, what do I say about Slugman? It's all in the name. Clearly, he's just basically a molten lava creature made up of partially molten craggly rock and streams of magma in between them. He goes by he, him. And I mean, he can't wear clothes because everything he touches just spontaneously combusts, and that's about it.
Cool. So we've got quite a motley cast of characters. We've got characters who are, well, I mean, inflammatory. We've got characters who really don't like authority. We've got characters who are really strong and like breaking things. We've got this is going to be a fairly chaotic and fairly noisy party, which is par for the course for Masks. So, like I said, Masks is a game about teenage superheroes. So we describe everything like we were reading a comic book. And indeed, all of us are about to witness what is the highlight of the school year. As we open the page and we see this establishing shot of this very hybrid kind of transatlantic town or city, rather. Imagine something like the setting of the Netflix show Sex Education, which is vaguely British and American at the same time. Imagine that you see all the grey sandstone Gothic buildings of a city that would be the capital of Scotland, but somehow also Americanized. And in the background, you see an establishing shot of the sky. There's a news helicopter flying up, trying to capture footage of a superhero and supervillain duking it out in what is your very bog standard superhero metropolis. And in the distance, you see an observatory. You see a tall spire atop a hill. There's this very gothic rocket-like building that is that is a memorial for a superhero of yore. And that's not where our story takes place, however. Our story takes place fairly closer to the city center, where there's this massive green space, and right next to it is Halcyon High School. And on one side is a swanky new building, a swanky new gym with bunting all over it and a banner saying homecoming dance. And you see all the kids arriving. The panel below that, the panel below the establishing shot, has all the kids in the school arriving in limos or by bike or whatever mode of transport they're taking. And you see there's some kids who are visibly superheroes. You see someone who is amphibious. You see some other students who are clearly from a different planet. And one by one, our PCs arrive. How are all of you arriving? Paint us a picture of you making your grand entrance at the homecoming dance. Bilal, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I think you see as a few of the limos are pulling up, you probably just the next panel zooms into underneath the limo, and a glowing molten hand just comes out of the sewer grate and just pops this lid open, and you see just eyes, just glowing, burning embers pop out, and looks for goes clear and tries to get up and bumps his head into the limo, and then goes back down. It's just like, I guess I'll wait here, and then just waits for the limo to.
So who's
gradually stroll
coming
on.
out of the limo? Which of you is coming out of the limo?
Steel will be coming out of the limo. I think she's saved up her money from newspapers to kind of at least pay some of this. And she'd have invited Tosh to ride in the limo if Tosh would accept. And then, as an afterthought, extended that to Zoo.
Cool. So those of you who are just arriving, Tosh, do you accept Steele's invitation?
Yeah, I think I do. And when the limo pulls up, the sunroof has rolled back, and Tosh is like fixing her hair after, like just waving her arms in the wind as it like speeds down towards the high school.
Cool. And Zoo, are you here? Are you here, or are you coming here with an even better ride?
I'm coming here in a very nice ride. So there's like a panel of just like, it looks like a storm's approaching. Like suddenly there's just like this big gust of wind that kind of like sweeps away someone's newspaper, just causes some general chaos. And then the cloaking device is removed, and we see Zoo's ship land just on the school premises. And Zoo steps out. Various fancy clothing sort of flowing in the wind as he does.
Amazing. But here's the thing: Z's quite used to making this kind of entrance, but you're in a city where this kind of thing is fairly par for the course. So much so that you land your spaceship, but then we suddenly zoom out and we see there's like tumbleweed next to where you are, as the a minivan drives up, and you see everyone's cheering and hooting and hollering, and this kid comes out dressed in your school mascot's costume, which is obviously a griffin. And you see everyone's cheering as the sport team is now coming out of the minivan. They've just won their homecoming sports fixture thing. I believe homecoming is all about sport. That's what my American friend told me anyway. What sport is really big in the school?
Lacrosse.
Lacrosse, perfect.
Lacrosse.
Yeah, so you see all the lacrosse team coming out, and they're like holding their lacrosse sticks up, and they're chanting, they're cheering, and all of you have made your grand entrance. But immediately, so the next, as we turn the page, we see all of you. We see so we see the limo having driven off. We see Slugman trying to come back up, but then the minivan sort of driving over. And as those of you who are walking down the red carpet into the entrance, we see that the page that panel gets ripped in half by another panel, which is basically the lacrosse jocks coming in, and you're just chanting, Griffey, Griffey, whatever American kids chant, apparently. And they're being led in their chanting by the Griffey and the kid in the Griffey the Griffin mascot. And speaking of Griffey the Griffin, thank you to Griffey and another anonymous donor for your donation so far. Thank you so much for those donations. Please keep them coming. We really appreciate that and all the support we can get. But we turn the panel, and all of you are inside. And homecoming dance. You see we see this. The insides are really well decorated. You see there's a chandelier put up in the gym. There are disco balls in various sides. You see the visual system set up. There's a stage set up, and there's bunting everywhere, and there are decorations, and there's like tables on the side with catering, and in between you see people milling about. There's lots of very crudely drawn shadows and silhouettes of people who are not particularly important. And because there's a comic book, the characters who are drawn are the ones who are important. So, what are all of you doing as you enter into the homecoming dance? What's the first thing you do?
I think Tosh kind of plays it cool. Like if there are 3 doors to enter, takes the far door and keeps an eye open for wherever Zoo appears.
Zoo, where do you appear?
I think trying to get back that sort of fabulous entrance, like Zoom carefully closes 2 of the main doors and then just pushes them open and confidently just strides into the room, just giving like winks to people. And yeah.
Amazing. And finally, what about Slugman and Steel?
Slugman's just gonna be standing in the corner, like gently bobbing with like a giant metal bowl filled with pebbles, which is just shoving it into his mouth. Just trying to. I think he sees his friends coming through the door, and he's just gonna wait.
Nice. And where's Steel?
Steele's gone past and got some popcorn from like the snacks table, and obviously there's some like unpopped kernels in there. So she's pressing them against Slugman to pop them, and then eating them.
Wait, this is
Amazing.
really inefficient. You know they burn as soon as you touch them. I don't. This okay, whatever.
Nice. Cool. So as all this is happening, you see the principal is about to go up on stage to make a speech. And some of the characters that are well drawn are the principal and you lot, the Griffey the Griffin mascot. And as you're waiting on the principal to make a speech, you see the gossip and rumors that circulate around the hall. They sort of appear nebulously in like little speech panels here and there. Why exactly do all of you think that Principal Matthew Peterson is an arsehole?
I mean, I know he sent me to the Nile factory where he almost tried to get me imprisoned by putting on power dampeners, which also controlled me, and I had to destroy it. Like we had to mess shit up just to leave. But mhm.
Cool. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, clearly Slugman has very good reason to think he's an absolute prick. What about Steel? What's Steel's big beef with the principal?
Well, Steele used to play for the rugby team at her old school until her coach decided to like dose her up with metal instead of blood so that she'd play better. And so she had to transfer here. And she's tried to get rugby to be replaced as the best sport, but Matthew Peterson did not listen and has so far said that she's no longer allowed to play rugby on the schoolyard after a window-related incident.
Nice. Well, I mean, I'm glad how that it's so personal to you, Steel. But Zoo, what about you? What beef do you have with with Peterson?
I think Zood like thinks there are way too many rules and way too many like strange rules, and has been like pestering the principal about like justification, like why they exist, and it's just not getting any answers. I think it's just being ignored at this point.
Amazing. And finally, Melena, what exactly do you what beef would you have with the principal?
Tosh thinks that whenever people turn like 30, they just instantly become corrupted and have this innate desire to control everyone around them. And she's not speaking from personal experience or anything, but she also hates every single adult who holds power over her. So inherently, Matthew Peterson is her arch nemesis.
Well, I mean, What a perfectly functional bunch of teenagers we have here.
Woo.
Because and you see the little panels of like the captions and speech bubbles that just emerge on the sides that says, have you I heard Matthew Peterson tried to like put power dampeners on people, and then someone else saying, well, what's with all these rules? And all the various problems you have with Matthew Peterson, you're not alone. Other people share the same concerns. But obviously he's the principal, and he is about to go up and make a speech, and he goes up on stage and he says, good evening, everyone. All the fine kids of Halcyon High. Welcome to your homecoming dance, and everyone cheers. And also, congratulations to the Griffies for a complete undefeated season. And everyone applauds. And this is why our lacrosse team makes us proud. And we are thrilled to announce that we will be covering our lacrosse team's like travel expenses. And he basically is just going on waxing lyrical about how much he's going to fund the lacrosse team. And he says, and also thank you to our wonderful donors. Thank you to WebTech for their generous donation to help us refurbish and rebuild our gym after it got burnt down last year. We know it was only a very short like year and a half until the last time it got demolished. Well, before then, and that was just before its foundations were completely caved in as well. But we are immensely grateful for all the money that we've received to rebuild, to make sure that our kids could enjoy their homecoming dance, and everyone cheers. Now, I'm not going to bore you with any speeches, but and then you start to feel the ground shudder. What do you want to do?
Did you guys feel that? Or was that just me?
I want to like check the exits.
Cool. Roll to assess the situation.
First roll, first roll, first roll.
Yeah.
First roll.
So for the benefit of our audience, Masks is a Powered by the Apocalypse game. The way Powered by the Apocalypse games work is you roll 2d6s, and if you roll a 6 or below, that's a miss or a failure. And if you fail, the GM can make something interesting happen. If you succeed, which is anything that's a 7 or above, you get to make something interesting happen. Between a 7 to a 9 is a partial success. So things succeed, but not as well as you'd expect them, or there might be minor complications. On a 10 plus, things go exceedingly well. So what did Tosh roll for assessing the situation?
I got an 8.
Nice. Do you want to read the question from your list that you want to ask me?
Yeah. Let's go with what here's the biggest threat.
Cool. So you feel some shuddering coming from like the ground, and you see the center of the dance floor start to crack, and the wooden flooring that is still shiny from just having been waxed after being recently installed splinters completely as some kind of rock monster starts crawling out. Rock monster at first, but then you see it looks vaguely humanoid, and it crawls out of the hole in the ground and stands up, and it's basically, it looks like dark black shiny rock. It's vaguely granite-ish in its texture, and this huge hulking mass of granite basically bursts out of the ground. Yeah, that looks like it would be a fairly big threat.
Is that the new exchange student?
You see the exchange students. You see the exchange student go, "Hey, not all black rocks look the same."
What?
And you turn around and you see the exchange student, who is a different kind of black rock, is standing really indignantly.
But Slugman meant no offense by this. Slugman
None
is
taken.
also part rock.
But yeah, this thing has just burst its way out of this hole in the ground, and people are starting to get freaked out a little bit because superheroes are fairly commonplace, and whatever, people are used to seeing you kids here. But that means supervillains are also quite common, and smashing through the ground and making a dramatic entrance like this is more of a villain MO.
What is Matthew Peterson doing at the reaction of this?
Matthew Peterson is absolutely terrified. He's just like, he has been caught in the middle of his speech. He's been knocked off his feet by the shockwave of this thing bursting out the ground. And you see this panel where basically it's this horizontal panel. You see the mic stand on one side, and Matthew Peterson has crawled to the other side of the panel and is like cowering in fear. And in the background of the panel, you see this hulking granite, the hulking creature made of granite, starting to stomp its way towards Matthew Peterson. Or rather, stomp its way towards the stage.
Is this part of the show? What do we?
I mean, maybe this thing also wants to make a speech.
I mean, freedom of speech, right? Is that what's the move here, guys? Do we just stand by? Because he's quite large.
Steele's gonna run forwards to right in front of this granite thing, between it and the stage, and aim to get its attention and yell, "Oi, what have you done to our gym?"
Roll provoke.
Oh god. Okie doke. Okay, my superior's +1, so that's a 9.
Amazing. Cool. So obviously this thing is a villain, so it does what most villains will do and start monologuing. So it says, "You want no part of this. You think this gym is yours. There are much bigger things happening here than you could possibly understand. What I wouldn't expect a teenager like you to know any better. All you kids think about is your own little hedonistic bubble of homecoming dance and who'd be, homecoming sovereign and homecoming monarch. There are far bigger things going on than just your homecoming dance, and you kids should just grow up."
Tosh shouts from the other side of the room, "So why are you here then?"
And basically this granite then picks up the sound system and flings it, and it goes. So basically, you see that the CEO of WebTech, who was here as the sponsor, has gone and like picked Matthew Peterson up and is like helping him dusting him off, and then the massive speaker just goes straight past both of them. This thing is here because it's basically trying to attack people in the audience. And the parents who are chaperoning the homecoming dance have now basically just started running around and just sheltering the kids and standing between the kids and granite.
Oh. Crap. Guys, I feel like we have to do something here. As much as I don't like goddamn Matthew Peterson, there's other people involved. Can I try and run and position myself just in front of the parents and this giant granite creature?
Cool. And as you position yourself in front of the parents and this giant granite creature, you notice that, well, something like you feel like some liquid drops on your head, and it puzzles you for a second, and you look up and you see there's something oozing from the ceiling, and it feels surprisingly heavy, as whatever liquid it is seems to be quite dense and viscous, and suddenly there's an awful lot of it, and you find yourself covered in what feels like some kind of liquid metal that then hardens into shape and grabs you by the wrist.
I'm freaking out. This has never happened before.
Can I teleport over and try to attack the metal?
Do you want to attack the metal, or do you want to get Slugman out of there?
I don't know. I want to attack the metal to see if I can
Amazing.
get it to like shock itself out of the form it
Cool.
has.
So, as this thing starts hardening around your wrist, Slugman, you notice, you're made of like magma, and this metal is, starting to heat up, but you still don't manage to melt it. And instead, somehow it manages to compress the magma and force like parts of your wrist to crystallize, and then it lets it shatter and melt again, causing you a lot of pain. Could you roll to take a powerful blow, please?
Oh, yeah. Jeez. Oh, that was a 9. I
Cool.
think I have something for this. Whenever I take a powerful blow, blah blah blah. Okay, sorry.
No worries. Just a quick thank you to all of our donors as well. We've got a couple of anonymous donations as well as we've got a couple of anonymous donations. Thank you all so much for your support. Yes, I appreciate your message about no one going without food, and we really appreciate the work Empty Kitchens Full Hearts are doing to make sure people don't have to face food poverty in Edinburgh. Cool. Sorry, Bilal, do you have a
Yes.
move for this?
No, I don't because I don't have any conditions yet. So that's just a 9.
All right. So for our audience, taking a powerful blow in masks is a move that is flipped. The higher you roll, the worse things go. So Bilal, what happens to Slugman?
I will take 2 conditions because this has never happened to me. So I'm gonna get angry and I'm gonna get afraid as well.
Nice. Meanwhile, Tosh, you you see that Slugman is in a lot of pain as Slugman's wrist is being crushed by this basically imagine the T1000, that kind of thing. This thing made of liquid metal starts to appear. What do you do to it?
Um, I think I want to use my like power negation powers to like disrupt its like like molecular bonds if you shock it enough.
Cool. Roll to directly engage that threat.
That's a 7.
Nice. What option do you want to choose?
I want to. Can I take something from them and like try
Absolutely.
to remove part of the metal?
Yeah, so what are you trying to take from them?
Just like a chunk, like just to get them smaller. Like so there's just like I have a chunk and then like their body or the most of them is over there.
Cool. So you managed to basically harden their arm and just like turn their arm brittle, so their arm just falls off and sort of so their arm falls off and they lose their grip on Slugman. But you realize that basically what you're smelling right now is really horrific fumes from the metal burning, and you can start to feel it really. I mean, you're used to being around someone who's magma, but you are now smelling oxidized heavy metals, and you start to feel yourself really nauseated by this. Yeah, mark afraid, as you realize you might just be fighting something that's a little more powerful than you expected. But nevertheless, you do manage to make it brittle enough for Slugman to break out.
Nice.
Badongzuboing. Yeah, things are starting to heat up because there's granite, then there's this thing that's, basically mercury. What else do you want to do?
Okay. So I'm going to step up in front of the granite monster and just say to it, how could you do this? How could you destroy our school gym? You're being so mean right now. And I want to use my stunning looks to try and persuade them to stand up.
Cool. Roll to pierce the mask.
Okay. So, 8 plus Dame, which is so 9.
Nice. What question do you want to ask?
I will ask, what are you really... Oh, no. Actually, I will ask, how could I get your character to stop trashing the gym?
So you know how you're trying to use your looks, right?
Yeah.
You notice that your looks have really had an effect here, and like they just look at you for a second and they're stunned by your clearly stunning looks. And you get the sense that the like granite might be susceptible to your looks. And, granite basically just says, like, hesitates for a second and then says, "Step aside or I'll make you."
You wouldn't do that, would you?
And you can start to feel the ground starting to tremor and says, "Oh, don't test me. Don't test me, Zoo. Don't test me."
I'm going to test it.
Cool. What are you going to do to test granite?
Just in a very disarming way, like not even readying myself for blow or anything, just standing there fully expecting them not to do anything.
Oh, okay. So as you might have noticed earlier, audience, anytime the players choose not to act, that gives the GM a free pass to act. So in this situation, you know what? I'll tell you what happens. You call Granite's bluff, and Granite, you can start to feel the ground starting to tremor, but nothing beyond that. However, that was Granite's bluff you called. And Granite, like hesitates for a second looking at you, and then suddenly just stops. But then you notice something else happen. You notice something crash through one of the side walls of the gym. Zoo, what exactly does your ship look like?
So I imagine it's just this incredibly sleek. It almost just looks like an egg and it's sort of just shimmering in different colors when the cloaking device is not on.
Cool. So, you see what looks like a ship very like yours, only bigger, and having a lot of like modifications made to it in a way that, it still tries to stay within the aerodynamic profile of the egg, but there's quite a lot of like extra hyperdrives and stuff attached to it. And it is somewhat bigger than your ship, but not because the core like chassis of it is any bigger, but because loads of other things have been strapped onto it. And you see that ship just smash through the wall. And it's a much older, much more battered model, but it just comes smashing through. And from inside, you see someone who looks like someone from your planet emerge, although wearing much less flashy clothes. It's almost more concealing. Very sort of loose robe-like things and scarves, masks, that kind of stuff. And you see another person basically just crash into the scene. Someone who might be from your planet.
Oh,
And they look at Granite and say, "Now, Granite, I knew you'd freeze when you had. I knew you'd freeze. I knew you'd freeze at the worst possible time." And steps out and looks at what's happening. You have Granite, you have Mercury, and you have this person now. What do the four of you want to do?
Did I notice Granite know Zoo's name? Because Granite called the Zoo.
Yep.
Oh my god. And is Granite like going for Zoo now?
No, because Granite froze as Zoo called their bluff.
Okay, this is chaos now, and I'm in pain, and I'm angry. Is the Mercury person still attached? Like, are they close to me?
They're close to you, but they're not attached to you because remember, Tosh broke you free.
Well, it's time to fight metal with fire, I guess. And I'm just gonna try and like expand and do the same thing that they did to me, except just like cover them in my body and just try to go as hot as possible.
Nice. Um, so as you, yeah, cool. So could you roll to could you roll to directly engage that threat, please?
Sure. Oh, garbage. It was a 7 plus danger, which is 1. That's an 8.
Cool. Wait, did you say you were afraid?
Yes.
I think that gives you a -2
Oh,
penalty,
that's a
doesn't it?
-2. Yep. So that's a
Cool.
6.
That's a 6. Now, remember, team, you have a team point. So team points are a currency that represent the cohesion and morale of your team. You can use your team points to help each other in times of need, and anyone can help as long as you just say how you're going to do so, and you spend a team point to give someone a +1 bonus on their roll. So can anyone in this situation help, and would you be willing to help? Alternatively, you can still spend a team point selfishly. So if no one helps you, you can still choose to spend a team point yourself.
I just read a thing. I have a move called Coming For You, which is whenever I mark a condition, I take a +1 against the person I blame most for it, which is obviously Mercury Man.
Yep.
And so that's back to a 7.
Cool. So I'll just finish explaining the selfish team point. If you spend a team point selfishly, you can change your stats in your favor so that you can go to, like, you can push that roll up to a success. But in this case, we don't need the help because clearly your lust for vengeance motivates you to attack here. What option do you choose?
I am going to create an opportunity for my allies by trying to trap them and protect them from that noxious vapor that was coming out, and just try to cage this one threat at least.
Cool. You cage this one threat with, the heat that you're sort of pouring on. And you realize that it isn't really working as well as you'd expected. And you're confused as to why for a few moments, and then you realize why. The metal is just conducting the heat away. And conducting the heat specifically towards the ground, onto the wooden flooring. And you can see the wooden flooring start to smolder as it slowly starts embering up and catching fire.
This is normal for me. I don't.
Yep. And whilst all of this is happening, what do the rest of you do?
Steel's going to take the opportunity of Granite being kind of frozen and attention divided to try and rugby tackle him back into the hole which he came from.
Nice. Roll to directly engage that threat.
Okie doke. So that's a 13.
I mean, yeah. What options do you want to choose?
I want to impress, surprise, or frighten the opposition. I want to avoid their blows, and I want to take their balance out from under them.
Amazing. Which move is it that gives you the extra options?
Oh, sorry, I just can't count. I will do that. And use Bull in a China Shop. So when I directly engage a threat, you can cause significant collateral damage to your environment to choose an additional option. So we didn't need that gym floor anyway, right?
Nah, they'll just make
So-
a new one.
So here's the thing:
Yeah.
you try to rugby tackle granite into that hole that they created, and the thing is that hole is a bit of a way away, and it's so much easier to dig a new one. How exactly do you just slam? Do you just slam granite into a new crater?
So we see, like, just from underneath, like, Steele's wearing this really horrifically pretty dress. Like, one of those things where you're there, like, I don't quite know how that suits you, but sure. And it's just, like, from under the neckline and then spreading down her arm, like, her veins start to bulge and, like, thicken, like, until they start looking really metal, and this metallicness just flows down her arm while it's also traveling up her face, and she runs and, like, just this solid metal shoulder straight into the gut of Granite, so that he flies back and smashes into the floor.
Nice. And like more of the floor caves in, and granite goes plummeting into granite goes plummeting into another hole. And Tosh, you
Mhm.
smell something very familiar. Where exactly are the gas mains again?
Under the gym, aren't they?
Yeah. And you have a very familiar gas leak. And gas leak, and then you look to one side, and whom else do you see but Slugman
The-
overheating to try and
Mhm.
contain mercury, and the floor is starting to catch fire. What do you want to do?
I think I want to try to use my criminal mind assess the situation thing to see if there's something that like if I know where to shut the gas off or something like that.
Cool. So your criminal mind always works. Anytime you assess a situation, your criminal mind automatically works. So
Oh,
roll to assess the
cool.
situation.
That's 13. Or no.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You get to ask all the questions. You get to ask 3 questions, I think, right? 2 plus a
Yeah.
bonus. Yeah.
Yes.
Remember, anytime you use information from an assess a situation question, you get a +1 to your roll. So, what questions do you want to ask?
I'm gonna say what here is useful or valuable to me.
Okay. See that ship that the other sort of person from Zoo's planet came in? Yeah. You reckon that ship, a vintage spaceship, quite valuable.
Okay, and then what here can I use to shut the gas off? Because I feel like that's more manageable than trying to deheat Slugman.
So you've been here before. Literally. You may or may not have been responsible the last time there was a gas leak that blew up the school gym, but you know that there is a gas main that is down underground near the gym in the basement, that there's this, we have this little panel of this very big gas main with this huge metallic sort of wheel that you can crank, which is in the basement. You can use it to shut off the gas main.
And then last question, who is the, oh no, wait, that says what? Sorry. Can I do who instead of what here is in the greatest danger?
I mean, you could get the same answer with what, because,
Okay,
people
sure, then
are.
yeah.
Like, Ontologically speaking, people would be objects, but anyway. So what here is in the greatest danger? There's an awful lot of parents and kids in this gym. Now, if the gas mains were to blow up, there'd be considerable collateral damage. But, they are. You could try and help them escape.
And they're not just like trying to leave.
Oh, they are trying to leave, but,
Okay.
the problem with panicked evacuation in a time of crisis is it isn't the most efficient or orderly.
Yeah. Then I'm gonna try to teleport into the basement to get access to that big wheel.
Cool. Roll to unleash your powers then. Remember, you get a +1 because you've sussed out the situation.
I think that's an 8.
Cool. Do you mark a condition or is the effect temporary or unstable?
I don't know what that means.
So if you mark a condition, you basically take a condition. In masks, because you're all superheroes, physical injuries are insignificant. On the other hand, because you're teenage superheroes, emotional injuries are really dangerous. So you have 5 emotional conditions you can take: afraid, angry, hopeless, guilty, and insecure. If you mark all 5 conditions and then you take another condition on top of that, that knocks you out. And if you have any condition, it imposes a penalty on specific rolls. So, do you mark a condition, or is the effect temporary or unstable? In which case, you tell me the effect is temporary or unstable, and I tell you which of the two it is, and I'll tell you how exactly it is temporary or unstable. What's it going to be?
I'll mark a condition. I'll mark guilty because I think Tosh is like running away from the action. And a question, because it's running away, do I unmark afraid?
So, not exactly. You're not exactly running away from the action. You're running to do something in this situation.
Okay, yeah.
Cool. You manage to go and get to the gas main, and we see the gas main, and we see that the gas main is in a basement. Fortunately, you can teleport, and you show up and you start cranking the gas main, and you cut it off just before it catches fire and blows the entire gym to oblivion again. Right.
Sweat off the brow.
So, Zoo, you called Granite's bluff, but now someone from your home species is here, and there's a
I
lot
think
of
Zoo-
stuff happening.
Yeah. I think as soon as the person crashes through the wall, Zeus stops paying, like I will stop paying attention to Granite guy at all, and just turn to see if I recognize this person at all.
Cool. Well, you can't quite tell because their clothes are concealing enough that they seem to be like in some sort of disguise, but it's no one you recognize just yet. Are you going to do anything to uncover who they are?
Yeah, I'll just stride up to them and ask, just like, who are you?
Okay. We're the alumni. We're here for homecoming.
Oh, can you help with the melting metal man?
No, Mercury's one of us.
Why did you trash the gym though?
Roll pierce the mask.
Goddamn college kids. Crashing a high school prom.
So pierce the mask is mundane. So that's a 10.
Nice. What questions do you want to ask?
What do you intend to do?
So you said, Well, we're the alumni. We were invited to, like, it's tradition, isn't it? The alumni come visit for homecoming and watch the big lacrosse final. But we just wanted to come here, say hi to some of our old teachers, and pay our respects to Matthew Peterson. I have to struggle so much to make sure I say Matthew Peterson and avoid.
What
Anyway,
else would you be saying, Vivek?
anyway, carry on, Drew. What other questions do you want to ask?
Okay. What are you really planning?
So he said, "Oh, and yeah, we just came here to say hello to some of our old teachers, pay our pay our regards to Matthew Peterson, and you hear and then you basically hear, like, there's this speech bubble that comes on the top of the panel of, like, vroom, and yep, that should be us. As you see the minivan that brought the sports team, like the lacrosse team, over, driving off in, like, the back window. Basically, they were here to cause a massive commotion, to make Matthew Peterson run, and then they were going to ambush him at the exit.
Wait, so the rich kids kidnapped Matthew
Okay.
Peterson?
Matthew Peterson and, well, amongst other people.
God
I
damn
mean, I'm kind
lacrosse
of okay
players.
with this.
I know, yeah. That's I'm torn.
Like, can we pick up on who else was taken? If anyone that like actually matters.
How do you want to find out?
Okay, so I'll just, for a final question, to me, how could I get your character to stop trashing this gym?
Basically, they were just all on their way out now, and you look at this and, that should be us. Anyway, looks like we're done here. We were gonna stay for, and then we were gonna stay for a dance or two, and you see, like, the floor's wrecked. Like, part of the floor is burnt. There are 2 massive craters. The sound system has been chucked all over the place. There's bunting that's fallen over. There was almost a massive gas leak that exploded. Yep.
Overall, pretty good.
It's like,
Can I do something weird before they leave?
what do you want to do?
So because I want to say I'm still like encased in the ball with mercury person trapped inside me, can like my face show up inside the ball and look at them and then just be like, I'm like, my like brain starts ticking and I'm just like, wait, they're made of a toxic material, I'm essentially made of lava, and I just say, I think I understand you. This is, I don't think I've met anyone so similar to myself before. I think I get you.
Interesting. What are you? Oh yeah. So what do you say to this? What do you say to Mercury? What's the gist of what you say besides I get you? Are you saying more of a, you wish you were like them, or you're quite like them and you want to know more about them? What's your angle here?
So I think like when my face shows up, it's just rage and fire and fury because I'm angry, and then suddenly like it just goes, huh, and I'm just like, this person is an older, more experienced version of me in a slightly different color, and I want to I how do you do it? how how have you?
Interesting. In all my years of running this game, are you sharing a moment of vulnerability with the villain here?
I think so. I think I am.
What's your move for sharing a moment of vulnerability?
I want to say I'm trying to comfort or support them.
No. There's a move on your playbook for sharing a moment of vulnerability.
Oh my!
I have never had this used on a villain before.
Team moves. Yeah, when I share a moment, when I share a vulnerability or weakness with someone, ask them if they think they that I am losing or gaining humanity. If they say losing, mark a condition and potential. If they say gaining, clear a condition and shift mundane up and any other label down.
This is so interesting.
I
So what exactly you say that they're like a
finally someone who's like me, like where we are broken off the same weird mutation. I guess I don't know. Just in case this all doesn't go to shit, can I get like an email or something? I don't. You think
Mercury
you?
Mercury responds, "No, you're wrong. I'm nothing like you. Granite is though,
Granite is-
and you know, you're right. You're just a kid who doesn't quite fit in, but deep down, you're a nice guy who tries their best. They think you're gaining humanity."
Oh crap. Okay. Um. So that means I clear condition and shift mundane up and any other. Okay, fine. So I'll clear afraid. Um, and I will shift mundane up and superior down.
Cool. And then they say,
What
anyway,
about that?
now if you'll excuse me, the pep talk's over now, and Mercury starts seeping through the cracks in the floorboards.
So no email there. Ah, shit. Is Granite still there?
Well, Granite was punted down into a hole,
Okay.
and we cut to like the
I do.
bird's eye view of the hole, and no Granite.
Can I have a word with the other alien person before they go?
Well, other alien person, it just says, "Well, that's my cue," and is getting in their ship to leave. How are you going to force them to have a word with you?
I am just going to. It probably has a slide door or something. I'm just gonna like casually lean on it and address them, trying to use my charms like just the letting some of my fabric flow in the outside wind.
Hmm. What do you? So what are you trying to say?
How they haven't called for you to come back, or have you chosen to stay anyway?
So this alien person looks at you and says, "Well, of course they've called, but I had some important things to deal with."
Oh, I think that cut out for me.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Did I lose my sound?
Yeah. Oh, of course of course they called. I just have a few more important things to deal with.
Oh no, yeah, I see what happened. Okay, can someone speak?
Can you hear
Hello.
us now?
Yeah.
Hello.
Is everyone able to hear us? Okay.
I'm all good.
I'm fine.
Erik, you've cut out. Right. Apologies, folks. Technical issues on a TTRPG stream. I'm just gonna go to the break scene very quickly, and we're just gonna try and sort these issues. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Just give us like 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. Right. Apologies, folks. Just minor technical issues, all dealt with now. Cool. Right. So what do you say to so when this person says, we're gonna, of course they called, but I've got more important things to deal with first.
Oh, see, you can just ignore it.
Yeah. They're not the boss of you. Now, step aside. Basically, this alien is trying to lower your mundane and increase your superior. Do you let them?
Yes, I let them.
Cool. So yeah, they're not the boss of you, and basically tells you to step aside and gets into the ship.
It's rude, but I will step aside.
Cool. And you hear this like the you hear the ship sort of fly off, and suddenly like panicked screaming. And what is the name of that teacher again? The one who was nice to all of you?
None of them. There was a teacher that was nice to us?
Yeah, who was it?
There was Mrs. Mitchell, the English teacher.
That one, yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You hear panicked screaming as Mrs. Mitchell's son, who goes to the school, says, "Has anyone seen Mum? She was meant to be. She was driving the lacrosse team back from their game, and like, where is she?"
Tosh is in the background of the next panel, like cursing the sky.
Well, to be fair, Tosh, you did stop the whole school from blowing up.
Slugman's just gonna go up to Zoo and be like, "Did anyone catch the number for that van? It's very important. And also, I think Mrs. Mitchell is gone."
Yeah, she's gone, right? Who the hell were they?
They
Like,
seemed like us, but better.
well, if you worked out a bit more, Slugman, then I guess you would look like big guy, Granite. I told you, don't skip leg day. Did you listen? No.
I feel Slugman's like 8 feet tall. Like,
Okay.
I don't know if I have legs.
So, what exactly are you trying to tell Slugman to do there, Steel?
I guess become more I guess become either more dangerous or freaky, and but then also take the hits and become less superior.
Cool. So, which one, danger or freak?
Danger.
Cool. Another rules aside for our audience. Masks is a game about teenagers. So naturally, all the stats revolve entirely around your perception of yourself and your self-image. So your stats are danger, superior, savior, mundane, and freak. These represent the different aspects of being a teen superhero. In this game, your stats can shift up and down if someone who has influence over you tells you to behave in one way rather than another. In this case, Steel is telling Slugman to be more dangerous and less superior. So, Slugman, do you take it or do you reject the influence?
No, I take it. I'm very conscious about my calves, which may or may not exist, but they it definitely hurts.
Amazing. Right. And then you hear you see this one person sort of come in boxers, and you recognize this kid as the kid who is normally the person who wears the Griffey costume, who says, "I don't know, like I was just getting out of the van, and then someone jumped me and stole my costume, and Mrs. Mitchell was driving the van, and I have no idea. I hope she's okay." And then
to
we cut
hurt
to
Ken
we cut
Griffey
to the
Jr.
we cut to the van, like the van that has a massive Griffey head on top. And inside we see Mrs. Mitchell tied up and gagged in the back of the van. As whoever kidnapped Matthew Peterson and whoever else basically used the school sports van as a getaway vehicle and ganked Mrs. Mitchell when she was just done with her shift of driving the lacrosse team.
Can we go to like one of the AV club folks and have them track the van for us?
You can track the van yourself. Tell me, how
Oh,
exactly
hell
do you plan on tracking the van?
I'm just doing squats in the corner trying to work on my legs.
So, whilst Slugman is having impromptu leg day, what are the rest of you doing about this situation that has presented itself? About Mrs. Mitchell being kidnapped by the alumni in the school sports van, along with, of course, Matthew Peterson and other people.
Do you think you can, I don't know, teleport ahead, Tosh? Just try and get a glimpse of them.
Yeah, can I test the limits of like, I guess how far I can teleport? If I can remember generally which way, because you said we could see them, I think through
Yeah,
a
you
window
saw the
or
van
something.
drive off in the distance. You could, yeah, absolutely. Roll to unleash your powers.
That is some that 11.
Nice. So we cut to tall building. Which tall building do you teleport onto?
I think one that's like very modern architecture, like some pretentious sort of like art high school in the city center.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
You go to you're basically at the very pretentious Halcyon College of Art, and you're right on top of their recent building. And this is you're right on top of their main building, and right below there's this huge banner announcing a new exhibition where they're minting NFTs. But in the distance, you see in the distance the van with the Griffey head on it driving away. You get the sense that you've covered a lot of distance by teleporting, and you could, in theory, keep teleporting in to try and catch up. But the rest of your team can't teleport. You have a choice to make. Do you press on ahead, try and catching the van? Or do you go back to your team and come up with a strategy? What's it going to be?
If I didn't have any conditions on me, I would definitely be following them. But I think I'm feeling guilty and afraid right now, so I'm gonna go back to my team.
Cool. So what exactly are you doing by going back to your team? Why? What motivates you to go back to your team rather than chase after the van?
I think I know I don't have like the prowess to single-handedly stop them. Like I know I don't know where they're going. I know that there's like people that like I don't know how many people are there total. Like there's a lot of unknowns. And I think
Cool.
it would be better if I had 3 other people to also deal with those unknowns.
Cool. So as you arrived next to your teammates, you teleport back. Clear, afraid as you've run away from something. Do you tell the rest of the team about, what you just told me?
Definitely like a shortened version, like I teleported there and they were going, like northwest. And I think they're heading towards like, the like downtown area. And then like there's a silent pause, like a ... That means I need help, but it's kind of a like invitation, I need help, without actually saying it.
Right. So, Steel, do you make anything of this?
Steele's gonna like kind of slightly recognize that pause, and to save Tosh the like hanging silence of "Are you gonna help me, guys?" is gonna like jump in and probably slightly too hard, like slap a hand on her shoulder, and be like, "We've got your back. We can do this together."
Cool. Roll comfort and support.
So that was a 3. So that's a no.
How do you? So what how exactly do you make this worse?
I think it's maybe the I think that's what Tosh what Steele means to say in her head. What she actually says
No, better
is
yet, Tosh, what does Steele actually say? And how does it make this whole situation worse?
Yes.
I think Steele says something that's like, "It's okay, you're not enough. We're here."
Oh, that is okay. So Tosh, what do you want to do about this? Because this is Steele we're talking about. Someone who, on the surface at least, really cares about you and has been really helpful and supportive. And Steele has just gone and said something like this. How does that make you feel?
Really put off, because Tosh has a very high image of herself, and she doesn't like the thought of people looking down on her.
So what do you want to do about it, Tosh?
I feel like it's just like a shrug to like knock off Steele, and then turn the focus towards Slugman and Zoo. Be like, okay, so what's our game plan?
Do I see Matthew Peterson's car in the parking lot?
So, Tosh, mark insecure.
Okay.
Slugman, you see Matthew Peterson's car in the parking lot.
Slugman has a plan.
You notice that the car's. Wait, are you planning on stealing the car?
In a way.
What is your plan?
My plan is everybody hops on top of the car, and then Slugman picks up the car and runs as fast as he
Okay,
can.
cool. So you notice the tires have been slashed.
Perfect. Don't need.
So, like,
It's a race against time before I melt through the chassis of the car to where I get to my destination. This is leg day, man. This is leg day.
So I was gonna say, you notice the car's tires have been slashed. And then I'm like, wait, are you planning on wrecking? Will you do more damage to the car than I would by saying the tires have been slashed? Doesn't matter. You're gonna do whatever the. So cool. That sounds
I'm angry.
great.
I'm still angry. I just need to go.
Right.
I think
Okay,
there's a panel
so-
of Slugman running to the car, and Tosh is like, "Zoo has a ship," but it falls on deaf ears.
Yeah. So here's what happens, right? We see we see one panel of the edge of like the school gym as everyone's trying to pick out the pieces of what's left and make sure everyone's okay and people are administering first aid. And so basically half the panel is the gym and the other half is the parking lot. Like you see this top down view, and like literally leaping out the frame with the four of you in the car, and Slugman like holding the car, smashing through this is the most literal smash cut you can get in a comic book, smashing through the side of the page, segueing into the next panel is Slugman just Slugman, do you have a move for this?
I would if I had picked that one because it would have been extremely appropriate, but currently I do not. I could just unleash my powers or something.
Could you roll to unleash your powers then?
Sure. That's plus freak. Hello. I got a 2 plus 1. I got the.
So, here's what happens, right? You smash through the scene and you arrive at the next panel. Well, almost. You arrive at the next panel. And you go to the downtown area. You arrive next to the big Griffy mascot van. And this is, obviously something very shady and dodgy is going on. So naturally this happens by the docks. Because where else? You arrive in what is now a very gentrified part of the docks. Because, Leith. And you smash into the docks and you see there's a bit with Matthew Peterson tied up and Mrs. Mrs. Wilson, was it? Mitchell. Mrs. Mitchell tied up, and the CEO of WebTech tied up, and a couple of other people who are just here who just happened to be the wrong place at the wrong time, and the alumni pulled off their whole plan. And all of them just look terrifyingly at you as you smash through whatever side of the building it was on when you just wrecked your way here, and you arrive. But indeed, as you pointed out, Slugman, this was very much a race against time. So the three of you get out of the car and you arrive on the scene. Slugman, you were trying to get here before you melted through the chassis of the car. And to be fair, you haven't melted through the chassis of the car. You have, however, melted through right into the petrol tank. Could you take a powerful blow, please, as you end up just arriving with this fireball of what's left of the car, as the others just get spat out of the car. Or the others get spat out of the explosion, but you are right there in the thick of this.
I rolled a 7 plus 1 because I'm angry, so that's an 8.
Do you have a move for this?
I do not have a move for this. I don't think so.
The one about taking a powerful blow because you don't have any.
No, I didn't take that one.
Oh, right. Cool. Yeah. So what option do you choose?
I think I'm going to what's it called? Choose one. Okay, I'm gonna lash out and provoke a teammate. And I'm gonna lash out at Steel, saying, "Who's the legged in now?"
What are you provoking Steel to do?
Run in there and wreck shit up like they do so well.
Roll provoke, please.
Sure. What is that? Plus provoke?
Superior.
Oh, superior. Oh, I have no superior. That's an 8. My superior is -2, so that's a 6.
Nice. So, do you want to be selfish about this?
Yes.
So how are you going to be how are you going to you can spend your team points selfishly. In order to do this, you need to do something that ignores or sidelines the rest of your teammates. In what way are you going to be selfish in the way you provoke them?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like instead of waiting for them to get out of the car, as soon as I bust through the wall, can I short put the car in?
That'll do it. So when you spend a team point selfishly, you can shift one of your labels down and another label up. So
Okay.
you can do that to retrospectively bump up your superior to succeed on this roll, because you got a 6,
Oh.
right?
Yes.
So you can push it up to a 7.
Perfect.
What stat
So
are you going to take down?
I'll move mundane down because I feel like that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. And you basically shot. So you shot put the burning wreckage of the car from this explosion, with presumably Steel still on it, straight into the scene. So Steel, do you go in and start wrecking shit up, or oh wait, hang on, before that, what is it going to be? A condition if Steel refuses, or a bonus team point if Steel agrees?
Are you asking me or Steel?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Oh, I think it's gonna be a team if they do it.
Cool. So Steel, you come smashing through the building, And hang on, I think let's see what happens. So you come smashing through the side of the building, and you land there, and you hear um you hear um you hear Slugman saying, "Whose leg day is it now?" as they shot put the car with you on it straight through. And as you crash in here, you see you're surrounded in this hulk of metal. And around you, you see Mercury again. Mercury would look at you and say, maybe if you just learn to be a little more flexible. As Mercury now sort of congeals and takes a shape that looks exactly like you, only a little bit bigger and a little bit older. What do you do?
I like to think that Steel's still skidding across the panel from the momentum. And I think she's going to yell in response to the whose leg day is it still? And yell, still mine, and run forwards and try and slam into the middle of Mercury to try and, since liquids, slam into it, so go through and the Mercury splooshes out the way. At least
Cool.
attempt to do that.
Oh, yes. And then you remember something your physics teacher was saying about non-Newtonian fluids.
Ooh.
You do add a team point to the pool, so you're now back up at 1 team point. However, you go barreling towards Mercury, and Mercury said, maybe if you're a bit more flexible. And then you go slamming into Mercury, and you basically just face plant into solid metal. Could you take a powerful blow, please?
Okay. Oh, fuck. Oh, that's a 10. Okie doke.
So remember, audience, a higher roll for taking a powerful blow is infinitely worse.
Yes. Okie doke. Okay. I'm gonna give ground so that opposition gets an opportunity and struggle past the pain, marking 2 conditions.
Cool. And Mercury then looks at you and says, maybe if you weren't so stiff, maybe if you just learned to be a bit more fluid, but don't worry, you've got time. And Mercury is basically trying to lower your danger and increase your mundane. Do you let her?
No.
What do you do? What do you say to her?
I think Steele's gonna it's like absolutely seething, and stares back at her, and says, I don't need to change. I can do everything without doing that.
Mhm.
And
Roll to reject her influence.
okie doke. That's a 7. Yeah, that's a 7.
Cool.
Ooh. Okay. I'll shift my freak up and my savior down. Is that okay?
Yep, absolutely. What are you gonna how exactly you're gonna assert yourself and be more freaky and less savior? Yeah.
I think by stepping back, accidentally knocking over Mrs. Mitchell, and just like all the like veins standing out on her skin even more, just in this way that you've almost got like a spider made of veins metal thing quite grossly standing off her chest as she just stands back in anger, knocking over Mrs. Mitchell in the process and barely noticing.
Cool. And as you say this, Mercury looks at you and says, "Yeah, well, that's what I thought when I was your age. But you know, we need to learn. We need to learn to change with the times. Otherwise, we all just get left behind." And Mercury basically like warps and makes what looks like a copy of you. And then you see in the next panel, sort of growing up into what she looked like, a slightly more grown up version of you.
Okay. I've not taken my conditions from
Mhm.
marking a powerful blow. So I'm gonna mark angry and afraid, because Steele doesn't like how that's sounding. Like that sounds kind of boring and just really adulty, but in a really boring way. Like, why not grow up and be really cool and use things for the better? And so yeah, she's just going to grow increasingly angry and afraid as she probably steps back again and then catches herself and grits her teeth.
Cool. Which brings us to about halfway through. So we're going to take a short 5-minute break and pick up from where we left off. But before we do, there's just a few announcements I'd just like to make very quickly. So, we are going to, we have been doing this to raise money for charity. And the charity we are supporting are Empty Kitchens Full Hearts. During the break, we have a short video presentation by Empty Kitchens Full Hearts that we'd like to play that talks about the kind of work that they're doing and what the organization stands for. A reminder that we are raising money for them, so you are welcome to donate using our using the tip jar that is on our Twitch page, or using the QR code that you will find on the screen that just down that way. So yes, please donate, and any money you donate will go a long way to helping people who are facing food insecurity in Edinburgh. Anything as little as £15 will feed one person for 10 days, and something around 42 would feed a family of 4 for about a week. And currently, we've received £55, which is enough to feed a family of 4 for a week and almost feed another person for 10 days. Thank you so much. Whatever you donate will make a huge difference. And thank you to all the anonymous donors who've been donating so far. Also, we'll be back in about 5 minutes, so you please feel free to keep making those donations, and we'll see you shortly. Right, so we're going to have the break screen soon, and then we'll have a video play. And we're back. So as we turn the page, we go to where we last left off. Yeah. So just very quickly, just to remind everyone what we're doing, welcome back to the Compulsion Light charity live stream in support of Empty Kitchens, Full Hearts, and their fight against food poverty. Empty Kitchens Full Hearts are a fantastic local charity that provide meals to people experiencing food insecurity, and they do vital work in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So far, we've raised £55 for this charity. Please keep those donations coming. We really appreciate whatever little people can donate. An organization like Empty Kitchens Full Hearts really makes a huge impact with a shoestring budget. Even as little as £15 can feed one person for 10 days, and £42 will feed a whole family for a week. So yes, please keep those donations coming. And just remind everyone where we last left off. We're playing a game of Masks, A New Generation by Brendan Conway. And the players are playing teenage superheroes. And when we last left off, we smashed through this wall as Slugman basically made a point to not skip leg day and threw a burning car with steel on it in front of a team of supervillains known as the Alumni. And Steel was just going face to face with someone who is an awful lot like Steel, but only more flexible and more fluid, by the name of Mercury. And by Steel going face to face, I mean Steel literally face planted into Mercury and realized running headfirst into a non-Newtonian fluid isn't usually a good idea. So we see Steel, back away, step on, knock over Mrs. Mitchell, and stare down Mercury, and kind of get flummoxed by the boredom of all the adult stuff of having to grow up and confront change. Meanwhile, where are the rest of you? Tosh, Badongzuboing, Slugman? After you've just yeeted Steel in through the wall, what are you going to do?
That didn't go like I planned. Slugman lost control of his emotions there for a moment. Should we help Steel?
I mean, yeah, we gotta get Mrs. Mitchell out of there.
Josh, do you think you can teleport Mrs. Mitchell out of there, and then we can, go in without a care in the world?
On it. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Cool. Right. So, this is interesting. Now,
So
remember,
can I add something?
so before that, Claire, how exactly does Steele put Mrs. Mitchell in danger?
I think it's next to the docks, so splosh.
Yep.
I think there's the kind of you see Steele backing up doing this whole "you're so boring, why couldn't you just be older and cooler?" And you just see Mrs. Mitchell kind of look on her face going out of frame, and then Steele's eyes snap.
No, even better. You're made of metal, right?
Yes.
You see the docks, like the pier, creak under your weight, and you see cracks start to emerge, and the dock caves in, and splosh, Mrs. Mitchell falls in. Tosh, Bilal, what was it that Slugman wanted to add?
Oh, I just wanted to scope and see if I can spot granite, because they seem
Cool.
like the biggest threat.
Cool. So before that, Tosh, you plan on teleporting there and saving Mrs. Mitchell, right? Well, Mrs. Mitchell, who is currently gagged and bound, has just fallen into Leith Harbor. What do you plan on doing?
I think I'm gonna just dive into the water after her and just try to like do the hug teleport thing that I do.
Cool. So we have this one wide panel of you see the side where the so So the panel on top is a sort of wide sort of altercation between Steel and Mercury, as Steel says, you're so boring, whatever, and Steel's like, like stomps her feet to sort of like really dig in her heels, and by digging in her heels, basically the weight of this starts to crack the pier, and you see like it looks as if the frame is cracking and falling over, as Mrs. Mitchell falls from that frame and is falling into the next frame, which is basically the underwater. As you see, she's falling in and she's like squirming against the fact that her hands and legs are bound. And the next panel has like from above, like you see Mrs. Mitchell's point of view as Tosh comes diving in to do the hug teleport. Tosh, could you roll to defend Mrs. Mitchell, please?
Yeah. Oops. What do I? That's a 3.
Cool. So you go in and you do the hug teleport, and you teleport Mrs. Mitchell, out of the water, but the issue with doing the hug teleport is you still need to hug Mrs. Mitchell, and she like fell into the water much sooner than you had managed to get in there, and you basically take a little too long to get to her. So Mrs. Mitchell is unconscious and needs CPR by the time you rescue her, rather than just managing to pull off a clean rescue. And one of the other parents sees you and says, "You've got to be kidding me. You could have just teleported there all the way through, right? You call yourself a superhero. You're an absolute liability." And you notice that some of the other people, civilians who were like gagged here, they're staring at you and looking at you as if you are an absolute failure, because you could have teleported in to save Mrs. Mitchell, but you went running to dive in. And they're basically like trying to lower your superior and increase your savior. Do you let them?
Yeah, probably. That's a lot of people.
Cool. What do you do? Because on one hand, you're getting a bollocking from all of these people who are very disappointed with you and do not make a secret of this. On the other hand, you've got an unconscious, half-drowned Mrs. Mitchell. What are you going to do in this situation?
Which is the one that they wanted to go down?
Sorry, what do you mean?
The stat. I think you said
they
savior.
wanted your superior to go down and savior to go up.
Oh, yeah, I think I'm like frozen for a second, and I feel like a crushing feeling inside my chest. But like then I'm reminded of my favorite unconscious teacher, and I just shout, like, "Is there a doctor?" Like kind of trying to push them out of my head despite it like ringing.
Cool. Well, there aren't any doctors here. What do you want to do about this?
Can I attempt CPR?
Oh, absolutely. You can attempt CPR.
How do I attempt CPR?
You attempt CPR. What are the rest of you doing? As you see in the background, Tosh is, frantically administering CPR to your favorite teacher. What are the rest of you doing? Zoo and Slugman. Mrs. Mitchell is safe. And Slugman, you wanted to try and find Granite. Well, Granite is there, like in front of you, not next to Mercury. Like you see Granite and the alien person are like sitting to a side drinking tea.
Interesting. Do we see Matthew Peterson anywhere?
Oh yeah, Matthew Peterson is like... Oh yes, you see Matthew Peterson. Matthew Peterson is gagged and bound separately from the others, and is in front, right next to the ship that the alien took to get here. You see Matthew Peterson is tied up next to that alien and next to is tied up next to that ship. And yeah.
Hey, Zoo.
Yeah.
Do you want to make an omelet?
Roll provoke.
That's what plus
That's plus superior.
Oh, 9. Plus where the hell is my superior? Any one of these? -1, so that's an 8.
Cool. So, is it a condition if Zoo agrees? Sorry, is it a condition if Zoo disagrees, or is it a team point if Zoo agrees?
It's a team point if Zoo agrees.
Nice, Zoo. Slugman is asking if you want to make an omelet. What do you do?
Zoo does not want to make an omelet. There are a lot of people here, and like Mrs. Mitchell is right there. This isn't the time to make an omelet.
So, what do you want to do instead? Because Matthew Peterson is cowering in fear, and there's one person from the alumni whom you hadn't seen yet, and this person is very finely dressed. Like they're wearing a suit, but a very functional suit, and still seems to look smart while still offering a fair bit of like comfort and mobility. And they've got like really long hair, like that's got streaks and highlights and it dyed at the tips, but combed into a really neat ponytail. They've got a few piercings, and you see that they've got you can see the hint of a tattoo on their wrist, clearly a sleeve tattoo that is underneath their clothes. And this is someone who clearly is putting on what a lot of people would consider a more presentable and professional exterior, but is nevertheless here, glaring at Matthew Peterson. And around this person, you feel this very strange chill just emanating from them. And that person who you previously hadn't seen is now here, glaring at Matthew Peterson. What do all of you want to do about this?
I want to try and get one of them away. So I will look to the alien person, and just say, "You bring shame to our people." And then I want to steal their spaceship and try to get them to chase me.
Cool. Right. So first things first, you first talk to this person and you say they bring shame to your people. What do you say to her? So you say they bring shame to your people. Do you elaborate on that by any chance?
Oh, yeah, just like kidnapping civilians, kidnapping Mrs. Mitchell. This is not what we're about.
And Z stands up and Z says to you, "Yes, well, we should have taken more care to get the civilians out of the way, but we made sure they wouldn't be harmed. We kept them aside and we kept them safe. Peterson, on the other hand, we need to stop him. You have no idea what he's capable of. You have no idea what he'll do."
Oh, you kept them safe, have you? And I will look to Mrs. Mitchell.
Yes, because and then the alien sort of yells over, says, "She would have been perfectly safe if that friend of yours hadn't collapsed the pier." Steele. They're trying to lower your danger and increase your mundane. Do you let them?
No.
Mhm.
Even though that would make sense, Steele's afraid and angry and doesn't like what's being said, and definitely doesn't want people to be proved right. So no, she's going to reject that.
Nice. What do you say?
I think Steele's going to yell, well, it's all your fault that we're in this mess in the first place. You can't blame everything on us all the time.
Cool. Roll to reject their influence. Roll to reject her influence.
Um, one sec. 7.
Nice. What option do you want to choose?
Ooh, I'm gonna clear afraid by so when it says immediately acting to prove them wrong, am I proving that I'm not afraid, or am I doing the clearing action?
So you're proving their label shift wrong. So
Okay,
they're telling
right.
you to be. They're telling you to be. Well, Z is telling you to be less danger and more mundane. You're trying to prove that wrong. You're trying to be more danger. How do you want to? How do you want to prove them wrong?
Oh dear. Steele's gonna like hike her fist into like the thickest, toughest, least flexible bit of metal ever, and smash it into the like docking bit just in front of her older self, so that that part gets cut off and she can't get across.
Cool. So one thing I just want to say is thank you to an anonymous donor who donated under the name of You Are All Amazing. We really appreciate your donation. You have just donated enough to feed one person for 10 days. We're now at £70. Thank you all so much for your donations. Please keep them coming. Meanwhile, getting back to what you've just said, Steele, absolutely, what you do, this show of force does make quite a clear display of your desire to prove them wrong. And remind me what option you picked again from the move?
Clear a condition.
Nice. Yeah, so you're no longer afraid. Perfect. And yeah. Badongzuboing, you've just heard this other alien say, well, you would have all been fine had the civilians would be fine had your friends not put any of them in danger. How do you respond to her?
What are you? You were the ones who kidnapped, bound up, and gagged her. How can you possibly be talking about her personal safety when you've done that?
In fairness, we did sort of put her away from, and we did sort of put her well away from where the thrusters of our ship would have been. We didn't want her to get caught in the hyperdrive. Zoo, could you roll to pierce the mask, please?
So pierce the mask is mundane. So that is a 4.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we did make sure that they were all well away from the exhaust vent of the hyperdrive. And yes, we probably should have been more careful to make sure there were no other people in the van before we took it. But we had an opportunity and we had to act. We can't let Matthew Peterson get away with this. Not in this time.
Okay.
You have no idea what he would do otherwise.
Can I just punch this person?
Absolutely. But here's the thing. You try and punch this person. And you know how Steel just went face planting into Mercury? You try and punch this alien, and there's this very uncanny bit, almost as if they saw your punch coming. They parried it straight away and then just sucker punched you. And as they did this, well, as he did this, you see her cloak and hood fall off. And you see, for a second, it's like staring into a funhouse mirror, but not. And then it's like doing those, those apps that you see that take a picture of you and then age it. And you realize you're staring back at yourself, but older.
Okay.
What do you want to do, Zoo?
I think Sue will just freeze.
Cool.
This is a bit too much.
Cool. Your older self says to you, because in my timeline, Matthew Peterson did far more harm than you could possibly imagine. We're not going to let him do that again. We're here to stop him in this timeline and every other timeline. And I won't even let you get in my way. Your older self is basically trying to lower your savior and increase your mundane. Do you let her?
Yeah.
Cool. The rest of you have probably clocked what the hell is going on. Your characters have probably clocked what you as players have figured out ages ago now.
Yes.
Even Slugman has figured out what's going on.
Slugman notices the weak calves on Granite. You never had leg day.
No, you notice the very good calves on Granite
no!
because Granite never skipped leg day.
God damn. Granite is better than me in every way.
But Granite is just older. And Granite has solidified a bit.
Oh no. Can I just like stand up because I'm still angry and I'm just gonna yell at myself, I guess, saying, all of you guys think you're so goddamn great and grown up and you figured everything else out, but you guys are the ones stuck in the past and you're the ones who can't let stuff go. And yeah, you might have amazing calves and hands that can touch things and like have an actual form, but why are you just gonna kill goddamn Matthew Peters? We know what he's up to. You're me, so he kidnapped us and almost killed us. And what? Just leave. Go home. Does your mom even know you're here? Does your mom know you're alive? Have you crossed that boundary yet? Get on that level, and then talk to me about moving on and getting older and whatnot. Okay. First of all,
so what are you immediately trying to do by saying this?
I think I'm just channeling all the frustration I feel about myself onto myself.
Are you sharing a moment of vulnerability with yourself again?
I guess that's what I'm doing.
Amazing. Your older self looks up to you, and we see basically the next panel is a full page spread of with like a diagonal split down the page, and you see Slugman's face on one end and you see Granite's face on the other, like overlapping onto the other panel, and they're like massive speech bubbles with like walls of text of them having this very precise and nuanced debate about the ethics of the situation that they found themselves in. Like a lot of you were thinking that Slugman is basically the less intelligent like jock of the group, but you realize Slugman has just been holding it in this whole time. The two of them have this very nuanced argument about how you're living in the past. To which Granite replies, "No, we're not living in the past. As you can see, we've grown, we've changed with the times.
You
I
literally
realized
come back to the
being I
past.
realized being I realized being uncontrolled magma didn't help. So I tried to crystallize and develop many other facets and turn into something that's more stable. And you know why this happened? This happened because Matthew Peterson would stop at nothing. He carried on his experiments on dampening our powers, making sure that metahumans like us would never be able to distinguish ourselves and have special abilities. And amongst his many other experiments, one of them went wrong. And rather than give me human skin, rather than suppress my magma to that degree, he just solidified it and turned me into this. And all of us where his experiments were going wrong. And we don't want him experimenting on other people ever again. And there basically responds with this. But you, on the other hand, you would rather let him do this. You would rather let someone whom you know, like you said, has kidnapped all of you and has nearly tried to kill all of you. You would let him go ahead and do this and not and stop yourself from setting this right. You're not a superhero. You're not even human. You're just a freak.
No, I'm a teenager.
So yeah, he basically says the opposite of you gaining humanity. So what happens? Do you mark potential and mark a condition, or
If they share vulnerability, if they say I'm losing humanity, mark a condition and mark a potential. Yeah.
cool? Oh, I like that. I like that you get potential. So for the audience's benefit, another rule aside, potential in this system is your experience. When you get 5 potential, you level up by advancing. And in this game, you earn potential when you fail rolls, because that represents you learning from your failures and overcoming adversity. There are other mechanics that give you potential. Like in this case, being confronted by the fact that you're losing humanity still gives you potential, because that is something that Slugman can learn from. So, Slugman, do you respond with saying you're a teenager?
Yeah, and I mark insecure as my condition.
Cool. Yes. What is it, Steel?
So Steele's been listening to this and it's kind of like Slugman's just put into words how she was feeling. Whereas meanwhile, with the slight from earlier, she's going to switch her love and rival just absolutely opposites. So that gives Slugman an extra influence over me, and means that Slugman, in a minute, you can shift my labels.
So, Slugman, without looking at Steel's stats,
Mhm.
which stat do you want
Oh.
Steel to increase and which stat do you want to decrease? Without looking.
I want them to increase savior and decrease mundane.
Okay.
Increase saving. Oh shit. Okay.
No, increase danger and decrease mundane.
Vivek, what happens when I hit the top of stat thing?
Are you being pushed beyond it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, again, for the audience's benefit, if someone has influence over you, they can force you to shift your labels. If you get your labels shifted above the maximum or below the minimum, then the label shift doesn't happen. Your labels don't change. But you mark a condition as the expectations of other people start going to your head. So how do you feel as Slugman wants you to be more dangerous than you can possibly be?
This is going to push Steel into feeling really hopeless because, like, all our older selves are here and they're kind of shit, and it sounds like the future's really shit. And so Steel's gonna, even though she's feeling really hopeless, take the +1 to impress Slugman and just try and go and like scoot Matthew Peterson out of there. But because it's Steel, it's in a pretty dangerous way. So she's going to barrel towards him and try and wrap around him and try and impress Slugman in this show of force.
Okay, so here's the situation you're in, right? You are Matthew Peterson is currently, right next to that ship, is kind of further away from where you are. You will need to. The ship is in your way. What do you intend to do about it?
Um,
'Cause, like if you were to go pelting towards the ship, then just the sheer the resistance of this huge object blocking you would be.
Is it an insurmountable barrier by any chance?
I mean, yes, to some extent.
Cool. Okay. So physics. What physics? Means that when I unleash my powers to barrel through an insurmountable barrier, I can roll plus danger instead of plus freak.
Amazing.
Danger.
By all means, be my guest. Roll to unleash your powers to get to Matthew Peterson.
That's going to be a +4 as well. That's 11 total.
Cool. I mean, yeah. So your rolls cap out at a +3 because that's the maximum cap for bonuses you can have. But you do manage to. So, Zoo, here's the ship your older self had. Fairly vintage, fairly modified, fairly upgraded. Has its own hyperdrive. Only, the ship was previously an insurmountable barrier between Steele and Matthew Peterson. Only now it's no longer insurmountable. To be honest, it's no longer a barrier. To be honest, it's no longer a ship, as it's basically debris at this point. How do you feel about this, your older self's ship just being completely wrecked?
I think Zoo kind of will flinch just for a moment, recognizing it as their ship or as her ship, but it's not truly her ship. It's a version. But yeah, and just be like, that would be so hard to put back together.
Because your older self looks at you and says, "What the hell are your friends doing to our ship? Are you just gonna stand here and let them?" Also, thank you, Maz, for another donation. We really appreciate it. Yay! That brings us to how much? That brings us to £85. Well done, folks. We're £15 away from 100. Anyway, carry on, Erik. What are you gonna do as your older self says to you? Are you just gonna stand here and let them?
Okay, you know what? You may be a version of me, but you are acting like a complete idiot right now, and honestly, you deserve to have your ship wrecked.
Yes.
Right. What exactly are you trying to do with this?
I am trying to.
Oh wait, no, even better. I've got an idea. So they say, "Are you just going to stand here and let them?" They're trying to lower your mundane and increase your superior. And are you trying to reject their influence by saying they deserve to have their ship? Are you trying to reject her influence by saying Z deserves to have her ship blown up?
Yeah.
Cool. Roll to reject. Roll to reject her influence.
Okay. So, what is that? What is that process? It's just.
That's just a flat roll. Are you insecure?
No.
Then it's just a flat roll.
Okay, so that's an 8.
Nice. So it sounds like you're acting to prove them wrong. What option do you want to pick?
Oh, right. So I don't think I have any conditions declared, but I think I will still pick that option. And I'm not sure if, I guess just voicing my support for Tosh, does that count as my action, that I'm not just moving immediately being like, "Hey, you destroyed this like very important ship."
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you just straight up told this person that, they sound like they deserve to have their ship wrecked, that is very much an action. You are very provocatively getting in their face and, telling them off. So what are you choosing to do then?
Oh, so do I have?
When you reject someone's influence, do you clear a condition or mark potential? Do you shift a label, or do you cancel their influence and take +1 forward against them?
Oh, okay. I think I canceled their influence and take +1 forward.
Nice. So +1 forward means the next roll you make targeting them gets a +1 bonus. Right. Meanwhile, Tosh, um, uh, f- uh, what is her name again? It's not Mrs. Wilson.
Mrs.
Mitchell.
Mitchell.
Mrs. Mitchell. Mrs. Mitchell. Mrs. Mitchell. Mrs. Mitchell. Mrs. Mitchell wakes up. She comes to and she coughs and she coughs out all the water that she was choking on. And she looks at you and she says, "Tosh, I knew you'd come through. I knew I could always count on you."
Tasha's not crying at all, but her eyes are suddenly very red and they hurt a lot.
Hay fever.
Yeah.
And she says, I always knew that, I always knew you had it in you that when things really mattered, you would step up and you would show us exactly how capable you are.
Yeah, no, she is crying. It's a total lie. And like she tries not to get it on Mrs. Mitchell because she already like vomited up the water and all that, but like it's hard.
And she says, You're not going to let them hurt Matthew, are you?
No. Yeah, no. Because I think there's like an actual moral quandary on Tasha's mind because she doesn't see anything good in like redeeming him. Like her plan was to get Mrs. Mitchell and then leave.
And she says, You need to get Matthew out of here.
She nods and then teleports towards the ship and the building and the.
Cool. So conveniently, the ship that was, pinning Matthew Peterson down is no longer there. So you can teleport there, and you see Matthew is, very terrified as to what the hell is going on because this ship has just been completely decimated, and Matthew's had a number of problems in that there were 4 older superhero / villains and people of meta-human capability menacing him, but now he suddenly has bigger problems, namely steel. And you teleport there. What exactly do you want to do to Matthew?
I guess I want to like assess the situation or something because I figure I only like saw everything happening out of like the corner of my eye more or less.
Mm-hmm. How are you going to assess the situation?
I'm gonna put myself between Matthew and everyone else and kind of like mostly analyze people's like body language.
All right, yeah, absolutely. Roll to assess that situation.
9 minus 2 is a 7.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm gonna ask what here can I use to protect Matthew? And then the like side to that, which is just the other question, is what is the best way past steel?
Cool. That's interesting. Okay, so oh, by the way, was that before or after you're guilty?
After. So that
cool.
was what the -2 was.
Yeah. All right. So what's the best? So first things first. What you can use to protect Matthew? There are like pieces of the ship's armor plating lying around. You get the sense that if you just pick one of those up, you can make a makeshift shield to stop any more harm coming Matthew's way. And what's the best way past steel? Possibly teleporting.
Yeah, then I'll take a piece of the shield and just kind of toss it to Matthew. Like, I'm not gonna be the one holding it, but I'll give him it.
Okay. Right. So, Steel, what are you doing as you're having this, as you've just come smashing through the ship? You see that Badongzuboing, older Badongzuboing, has the one who puts the bad in Badongzuboing, is furious about having her ship just blown up. So what Z does now is, rather than talk to like younger Badongzuboing, is basically just gonna come charging right at you with their cloak and everything like fluttering behind them, but then trying to like punch at you, but then their fist basically transforms into this massive like crab pincer, and they grab hold of you, and they're about to basically grab hold of you. What do you want to do?
I think Steele's going to kind of come in to take the blow to catch the older Badongzuboing off guard, and so that, like, because in Steele's head, they're like, okay, I'm angry, I'm not afraid anymore, I'm feeling pretty shit about everything. At least if I'm got this Badongzuboing locked away from the rest of everyone, they'll be distracted.
Cool. We've got more donations coming in. We've got another £15 that takes us beyond £100. Thank you everyone who's donated. We really appreciate this. This has been great fun to do, and we're glad we're so grateful for all of your support. We really appreciate the work you're doing, and this is going to make a huge difference to some of the most precarious and vulnerable people in Edinburgh who are struggling with food insecurity at a time like this. We've got the pandemic, we've got an ongoing cost of living crisis, and at a time like this, charities like Empty Kitchens, Full Hearts are doing such vital work. And the fact that all of you are being so generous in your support really means the world to us. We're just a bunch of nerds running a gaming convention from our bedrooms playing games online, but we're glad we could entertain all of you, and all of you feel so generous in donating to this charity. So thank you all so much. Now, unfortunately, we'll have to lower the tone considerably from heartfelt gratitude and sincerity to whatever the hell Steel is going to do to older Badongzuboing. So, Steel, could you roll to directly engage that threat, please?
Okey-doke. That's a 13.
And how directly are you engaging this threat again?
Pretty directly.
Cool. So what 3 options do you want to pick?
Oh god. Create an opportunity for allies, impress, suppress, or frighten the opposition, and then how metaphorical can we get with take something from them?
As metaphorical as you'd like to be.
I want to take their like superiority from them, like make them look like they're just engaging in some like playground squabbling and fighting, instead of being kind of a cool adulty vibe.
Okay, never has anyone in any game of Masks of Run gone that metaphorical. So well done, Claire.
Well, you said get metaphorical.
Right.
You did
So-
say as metaphorical as you want.
Yep.
So I'm taking that position from them.
That is perfect. No. Taking their superiority is absolutely fine. First things first. Tosh, remember how you wanted to save Peter from... Sorry, save Matthew. Save Matthew Peterson. Save Matthew Peterson, who bears no resemblance to any other leader figure whatsoever.
Any similarities are
wow,
purely
we just got a
coincidental.
massive donation from Gregor Hutton. Thank you so much, Gregor, for your donation of £50. I think that's the biggest donation we've received so far, unless some of the anonymous people have donated repeatedly. Thank you, Gregor. That makes a huge difference. And Gregor, for those of you in the audience who might not already know, is going to be one of our panelists at our event tomorrow. Gregor will be speaking along with Morgan Davey on A-State, which is a forthcoming release of a new edition of a Scottish tabletop role-playing game. You can come here for that tomorrow. We'll make announcements of that at the end of the session. But thank you so much for your donation, Gregor. We really appreciate it. Anyway, coming back to what we were saying, Tosh, you were wanting to save Matthew from Steel, right? Well, Steel is just about to cause a whole world of collateral damage. How exactly do you want to save Matthew from this?
I think I kind of want to do like I want to try to create like a I don't know if it's possible, but sort of like a sphere using my power negation around the both of us. Would that work?
I mean, okay. So you look at the fourth person in this room, the one whom none of you have been punching yet, and you feel this cold emanating from them, and then you lock eyes with them. And you realize that is exactly what she's doing. Because that's you, Tosh. Of course that would work. You just saw your older self do it. And
I know it all clicked for everyone else, like a little earlier in the scene, but it all clicks for Tosh right now. Like, oh.
so Tosh, could you roll to unleash your powers, please?
Yeah.
Oh no, actually, sorry, no, roll to defend. Roll to defend, Matthew. And unfortunately, you don't get a +1 because you are not using the teleportation that would have given you the bonus, but you're doing something way cooler. So absolutely roll that +1. No, absolutely roll that move without the +1.
That's an 8.
Cool. So, what option do you choose? Do you add a team to the pool? Do you clear a condition on yourself? Or do you what is the third one? Shift labels?
Take influence over someone.
Oh, take influence over someone you protect. Yeah, which one do you want to pick?
I think I want to add a. I kind of want to be selfish. I think I'm gonna clear a condition.
Nice.
Oh, actually, I didn't realize I have a -2 to defend. That's actually a 6.
Okay. Are you going to act selfishly?
Yeah, probably.
Cool. So you can shift your superior up. What stat are you shifting down?
Probably I want to say savior again.
No, you'll need to shift your savior up to be able to...
savior up. Oops,
Yeah,
I went to the
because
wrong
when you
one.
shift your stats, you shift the stat that you were rolling with up so you can push your
Right.
roll over. So what are you going to take down?
Then freak.
Cool. And nice. So how exactly do you act in a way that ignores or disregards the rest of your teammates?
I think I
Sorry,
like
specifically ignores or insults your teammates. Apparently, I forgot the word in the rule was insult.
I think I accidentally extend the power negation too far and it hits some of my teammates and maybe disrupts them.
Okay. Right. Okay, this is getting incredibly recursive at this point. Cool. So you manage to get you create this bubble of power negation. And perfect. You extend your power negation too far. Slugman, you were the one who figured out all these pieces, right? And you were having this altercation with your older self.
Mm-hmm.
You see in the distance Tosh and older Tosh. Like, older Tosh was extending this bubble of power negation, and that was the chill that everyone was feeling. Younger Tosh gets this idea from older Tosh and does this. And then you piece together that basically older Tosh did this because she saw, when she was younger, she saw older Tosh do this, and then she grew up to this. Your mind kind of gets like
Oh,
blue screened with the
no.
bootstrap paradox that you've just seen. Could you take a powerful mental blow, please?
Yes, I can. Powerful mental blow.
Your move doesn't work on this because your move only works with physical blows, not being confronted by time travel paradoxes.
That's an 8 plus 2 conditions. That's a 10.
So, what option are you choosing?
Hold on. Let me freaking.
I studied time travel at university, and I never
Oh my
thought it'd be
God.
this useful ever.
Choose one. I must remove myself from the situation. I must lose control of myself in a terrible way, or take 2. I will lose control of myself in a terrible way, is what happens. I feel like
How-
if Slugman still had any blood, it would be just leaking out of his nose right now, but it's just magma, so it looks like nothing's changed. And this just pisses Slugman off for some reason because he thinks about how his journey made granite, and their plan makes no sense because Matthew Peterson has helped everyone because they're strong and can control themselves, and this is just frustrating. Everything just is hitting him too hard, and he just slowly starts to expand and grow like subconsciously, and suddenly he just erupts.
Cool. So as we turn the page, no, so as you erupt, you notice the ground beneath you starting to burn in the heat and crack, and you erupt and you see the building. Or we cut to this overhead shot of the building, and we see this huge plume of magma just shoot through the big dock building. Um, I I have. Never mind. Most people in the audience would know what I'm talking about, and if they don't, they can use their imagination. I'm not going to describe what the Leith docks look like. You wreck the building. The building catches fire and starts cracking. Meanwhile, the foundation of the building also collapses, and you fall straight into the water.
Uh, uh,
What are the rest of you doing as this building is caving in? Well, I mean, Tosh is out with Matthew because Tosh teleported Matthew out of there. Oh, hang on, wait. Tosh, I forgot to ask you. Do you escalate the situation or do you put yourself in harm's way?
I put myself in harm's way.
So Tosh Tosh caves in with the rest of the building. Badongzuboing and Steel, what do the two of you do?
Steele's gonna yell at Badongzuboing as being like, don't listen to them. Don't listen to any of them. Just do your weird shit. And is gonna try and up their freak and reduce their mundane. Sorry,
Cool.
here at mundane.
Cool. So Badongzuboing, do you take Steel's influence or do you reject it?
I take it.
Cool.
And then Steel shout, just go for them. Just do anything.
Mm-hmm. Steel, I will point out the building is currently collapsing.
Yeah, Steel's kind of locked in with older Badongzuboing. I can't say
Mhm.
that.
Cool.
I was
So
just
s-
gonna hold them in place as the
Cool.
building
As you hold
collapses.
her in place, Badongzuboing, what are you going to do as you see Steel and your older self locked in combat?
Oh, I think I want to in this moment just help out Steel. I think I will use my shape-shifting powers to turn into an exact copy of my older self. And then I want to walk up to my older self and say, "See, I can also have my looks be more mature if I want to. It's what's on the inside that counts, and you are clearly still a child."
Okay. What are you trying to get your older self to do?
I I'm trying to I'm trying to break them by being um more stunning than that. Just showing them that like I am a better version of you. Uh as like unleashing my
Interesting.
powers.
Interesting. Well, this is more of a directly engaging that threat,
Ah.
but you do have a +1 against them. So roll to directly engage that threat.
Oh. Plus danger. It's it's a 4.
Cool. Your older self lets go of Steel, looks at you, and then transforms into a squid
What the fuck?
as the building caves in and all of you just go underwater. Remember, every time you fail a roll, remember to mark potential. Have any of you hit 5 potential yet?
I'm at 4.
I've
3.
had 3.
Oh, so close. Well, as you're all underwater, Slugman,
Mm,
you've just been dunked underwater.
I am upset. I am angry. And I see, like, I think first what happens is the shock hits me and I start to harden because the water is rapidly cooling me.
Yeah.
And then I realize that I'm turning into granite. And
Yep. Absolutely, you realize you're turning into granite. What do you do?
I think I just embrace the anger and I say, we're making an omelet, and I want to roll to become the monster and just power through
Yes!
it.
Yes! Nice. Roll for it.
What is that? That's gonna be plus freak. Okay, let's go. It's a 5, but I do have a +3, which is gonna be no. It's a +2, which is gonna be a 7. So I'm gonna choose 2, which is I frighten others I had not intended to scare, and I hurt or break someone that I shouldn't have.
Wait, so what were you trying to what were you targeting? What were you intending to do before you find out what you didn't intend to do?
I was intending to just overcome the hardening from the rapid cooling of the water, and like essentially, if I generate enough heat, there'll be like this protective layer of permanent steam around me, and then
Interesting.
I can basically move freely in the water and take out this giant squid that has now appeared.
So whom are you actually trying to intimidate? So you're trying to intimidate the giant squid then?
I'm trying to intimidate all our older friends, especially older me,
Mm-hmm.
because he thinks he's so much better than me, but he's forgotten
Perfect.
one thing, that deep down inside, we're all teenagers, which means we're all freaks.
That is perfect. So yes, you absolutely terrify the hell out of your older selves, and you conjure so much heat. And for a moment you were turning into granite, but then you overheat yourself to the point where you start, turning back into your like igneous self, and there's this like whole protective bubble of like laden frost around you as you basically start boiling all the water around you. And you're very close to turning like evil Badongzuboing into calamari. um but yeah, your older selves are now just utterly terrified. um Tosh, you've fallen underwater. You see that deep underneath you there is this bubbling sort of mass of slugman surrounded by these bubbles of laden frost, and above you you see there's this giant squid that's like swimming away from Badongzuboing and Steel. What do you want to do?
Um, I wanna. Is Matthew Peterson like with us too?
No, you got Matthew Peterson out. You got Matthew
Okay.
Peterson out, but then you fell backwards into the collapsing pier.
Okay. Then I want to swim up towards, because up is easier than down, towards Steel and Zoo, and try to hug teleport him out of there.
Amazing. Cool. Roll to defend them.
Sorry, I forget what we add to that.
Savior.
That's a 7.
Nice. So, just a few moments ago, Mrs. Mitchell told you to be. Mrs. Mitchell had some words to say to you. How do those words push you over to be able to save your friends in this situation?
I didn't like when I teleported Matthew away, I teleported back. I didn't just run away. I'm here for my friends, and I will help them the best that I know I can.
Cool. And you teleport your friends back to the surface. And Slugman, you are laden frosting the water around you, and you see that evil Badongzuboing swims away and leaves. It's just like getting away from the heat as much as possible. And as you arrive at the surface, you realize that your older selves really kind of get the sense that the jig is up. That Granite sees what's happening underwater as you sort of emerge, and Granite just goes, "Nope," and just started like legs it, and like starts burrowing underground. Mercury just like turns into a puddle and just flows away, and your older self is just nowhere to be seen. Your older self is like the stealth ninja, just disappears. Um, you have utterly terrified your older selves as they've fled. And Slugman, as you emerge, and then we have this like this. It almost looks like a kaiju film as you emerge from the water, and you wreck whatever's left of the pier, and you sort of climb back onto the surface. But you've scared off your older selves. The alumni are nowhere to be seen. However, Mrs. Mitchell looks at you, Tosh, and says, again, I really hate the fact that I'm doing this, but oh well. Mrs. Mitchell looks at you, Tosh, and says, I'm so disappointed in all of you. I expected better. I expected you to be the kind of people who save people, not destroy everything around you. And even though I believed in you when no one else did, Tosh, even though I made sure you never, even all those times you could have gotten suspended, but you didn't, I went on a limb for so many times, and this is how you repay me? Tosh, I'm not just disappointed, I am hurt. So in Masks, the GM gets to make a series of moves in response to PCs, and there is a special move that is tailor-made for the Delinquent, which is called Show Them Conditional Love.
Oh no!
She's not angry though. She's just disappointed.
She expected better of
But
you.
in like Tasha's mind, she did like the absolute best. Like she completed her objective. Her friends are alive, and it still didn't work.
Yep. And Matthew Peterson looks at all of you and says, Yes, Mrs. Mitchell, you're right. You know, for a second I thought I'd misunderstood these kids. For a second I thought they had good intentions. Especially when Tosh saved me there and after everything. But then Slugman here decides to completely wreck everything and explode like a volcano. Nah. We were right all along. These kids are a menace. They're a loose cannon. They're a liability.
It was Mrs. Mitchell all along.
Who's been disappointed with everything? It was Mrs. Mitchell all along. So what are all of you going to do as Mrs. Mitchell and Matthew Peterson are not angry, they're disappointed?
I think in the background, as Mrs. Mitchell is saying all of this, Slugman still like hasn't come down yet, so he's just like
Absolutely. That is precisely what Matthew Peterson is gesturing towards as he's trying to, prove his point.
Steele's gonna like step forward angrily and be like, don't you see what we're going to turn into? We tried to do the right thing. We tried to undo what our future selves have done, but that's where we're going to end up anyway. We've got to at least try now. We know we're not going to be good enough.
Cool. And you talk to Matthew Peterson, and you notice Matthew Peterson is just busy monologuing. How do you make sure your words get through to him?
Oh God.
You don't have influence over him, do you?
No. Can I I think stomp my foot to get his attention and to kind of break his, like, he's doing the whole "oh, I'm better than you kids don't know anything" thing. So like stomp my foot to get his attention and draw everyone else's attention to what I'm saying.
Oh, you stomp your foot to get his attention and you realize it doesn't work. He somehow folds that into the rhythm of the speech, using that to prove his point. And you realize that there's something about Matthew Peterson's whole rhetoric here that is being a bit of a wall that you can't quite get through. How are you going to get around this? Slugman, you're the one who has been consistently being used as a, example.
Mhm.
And likewise, Tosh, you've been called all sorts of things. Badongzuboing, you've been through a lot as well, and you've heard everything you've done. Matthew Peterson is just using as evidence for his argument. How do you get through to him? What are you going to do to try and get through to him?
Can I try using the troublemaker little thing I have, where like helping a teammate using like do
Yeah.
something illegal, spend a team point, help
So
a
that only
friend.
works when you're helping someone. But for now,
Okay.
basically, the problem you're facing is you're trying to get through to Matthew Peterson, but you can't quite figure out his deal because his the rhythm of his rhetoric is somewhat impenetrable. How are you going to read between the lines and get under his skin?
I have something that I want to. I mean, clearly this is a guy that would listen to authority, and the fact that we are kids is getting in the way. So I want to try and shapeshift into like the superintendent or the mayor or something.
Cool. And yeah, roll to. Okay, yeah. So you shapeshift into the mayor, and unfortunately, this just gives him an audience. He thinks there's the mayor, and you notice his tone goes from giving you a bollocking to now turning into a soapbox, where he says, "We need more stringent regulations against superheroes." And you see that there's this peculiar logic in the way his rhetoric is going. And the more you try and manipulate him, the more he turns it against you. How are you going to try and get past this 4D chess game he's playing?
Can I just come? I think Tosh turns around and just starts walking away and kind of like eyes her friends like, let's just leave.
Steele's going to begin walking after Tosh, but kind of gesture Mrs. Mitchell to come with us and try and get her to come along and join our side, even if she's disappointed in us.
Mrs. Mitchell isn't listening. Mrs. Mitchell has been swayed by Matthew's rhetoric.
God damn.
Slugman, what are you going to try?
I shake off the rest of the rage and I just look at everybody and I say, I'm sorry, Slugman hates salt. That's
By the way, you can clear angry because you've clearly destroyed a lot of things.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, Slugman just looks at everybody and says, Slugman sometimes loses control because Slugman hates salt. You know this. And he's just gonna walk up to Matthew Peterson and Mrs. Mitchell and just say, you know what Slugman really just envies about the two of you. You can look at this situation. You can be kidnapped, threatened to your life being held in such fragile hands, and then your students risk life and limb to come and save you from their elder selves and go through this whole weird intellectual moral sort of I don't even know how to. I'm still trying to piece it all together. There was time travel paradoxes involved. I was considering killing myself to kill Granite at some point. Also, why did he change his name? That's weird. Weird Slugman. But throughout all of this, you guys can focus on the fact that the reason all of this happened was the two of you acting like absolute emotionalists, completely normal, mundane, scared little beings. And Slugman wishes he could have a simple mind like you, because it would be easy to live in a world where you can just blame your problems on other people instead of looking within.
roll for I wish I was not expecting roll for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can roll plus freak for this instead of mundane. That's an 8 plus 3, which is an 11.
So as you say this, you notice you've just all this while the destructive stuff you were doing was, tools in Matthew Peterson's arsenal to turn against you. But suddenly you've come up and said, "I wish I could be mundane people like you," and it just completely throws him off. That suddenly he doesn't have something he can point to prove his point. And as you say this, Zoo, you're dressed as a mayor. You see Slugman going up and saying, "Oh, I wish I could be more mundane, etc." You heard the gist of that, and suddenly that stops Matthew Peterson in his spiel. What do you do?
I will go up to Slugman, sort of, in a better sort of fatherly way, put my arm close, not on him, but like close, like,
Classic hover
uh,
hand. Classic hover hand. Love it.
and then say, "It looks like you've been through a difficult time, my son, and that you have done your very best. I am sorry that the people that should be supporting you after such a horrible experience instead turns to blame all of their problems on you."
Cool. And as you say this, Matthew Peterson and Mrs. Mitchell like look at each other and then look at you and says, and Mrs. Mitchell says, "You know what? The mayor's right. I'm sorry. I let my anger and my fear get the best of me, but Slugman, you're right. You may have lost control a little bit. You may have caused much more damage than you intended, but the truth is, you came in and saved us. And I really appreciate that." And Matthew Peterson has just had the rug pulled from under his feet, and he is just completely baffled. So as we turn the page, we have all of you walking away from the scene. What's the scene like as all of you are walking away, as we come to the end of this adventure?
Steele's doing a very, Steele's talking to Mrs. Mitchell and doing a very bad comparison of what's just happened to a class that Miss Mitchell taught recently in English. Clearly there was some book we were reading, like we were studying Macbeth, and Steele's doing a really, really bad comparison that's very clear that all she read was the Spark Notes and watched the film or watched some kind of brief adaptation. But Mrs. Mitchell seems to be at least listening, or at least just not actively ignoring her.
Because it's as this is a teen drama comic, it is a mandatory part of the curriculum that whatever text you're studying in English class is an allegory for whatever teen angst you're going through.
I'm not sure how Macbeth is the best choice. I can change that if you like.
Oh my god.
But yeah, cool. And what about Badongzuboing?
So, I will kind of discreetly try, like, as I shapeshift back, I will keep my hand sort of around but not on Slugman, and just kind of go on like a flattering rant about like how all the things that he did were so cool, and just the way that he like was able to boil the steam shield in the water was so amazing. Basically, yeah, just taking this chance to really get close to Slugman and just flattering him a lot.
Nice. And what about Tosh?
Tosh is in the back of a panel, and it's like they took her silhouette, blacked the whole thing in except for like two big eyes, just absolutely fuming in the corner after saving Mrs. Mitchell, performing CPR, after making sure Matthew Perry was not in the class building. He said, "Thank you, Slugman, for saving me." And Mrs. Mitchell turned him because of him. She is fuming. She will not say anything, just in the corner, mad.
Yes. I mean, yeah, I like mechanically the rule book says make adults as childish as possible. That is why I love this game so much. And finally, what about Slugman?
Slugman's just is still trying to like piece everything together in his head and doesn't know what the implications of what just happened means. But I think he's so distracted, and he turns to Zoo and he says, "I think we know what we've all learned here today is that I think the mayor is my dad."
I was half expecting him to say never skip leg day, but no, Bilal does it again. Now, on that absurd note, we turn the page and we basically see the vignette for like the post credit scene, and we see we see Matthew Peterson sitting down in his office, looking around, and you're looking at like the student records of all of you, and just folding them, putting them in a drawer, like putting them in the drawer, shutting the drawer, and then like leaving his office, turning off the light, closing the door as he leaves, saying, "Well, I guess I was wrong about them." Cool. Which brings us to the end of the session. One thing I like to do at the end of every session I run is go over very quickly and ask everyone to talk about their highlights of their favorite moment from the session. So yeah, Claire, do you want to start us off? What is your favorite moment from the session?
Okay, well, I'm going to be like dying of laughter every time I think of the mayor somehow being Slugman's dad. But aside from that, like I think I said this in the break when we were off stream, that I found the interaction between Slugman and Mercury initially really interesting. Like just the kind of the parallels that could be there between Mercury and Slugman. Yeah, in fact, it was almost Granite was almost like it was still very similar but very different to how Slugman was imagining his future self, and I found that really, really cool.
Yeah. So there's a reason for that. So mechanically, the adults, the adult versions of yourselves, the GM move that I had for all of them was, if you try and directly engage the threat of your older self, they negate it and turn it back on you. Which is why if you faced off against your older self, they were immune to that because they're your older self. They know all of your tricks. But then, since they're all aged up versions of all of you who are changed versions of your own characters, all of your characters have various parallels amongst with each other. So your older characters will also have interesting parallels with other people's younger selves, and that sets up interesting diagonals that forces people to engage with the older version of other people's characters. So yeah, I'd set that up to see just how the characters are played, and I'm really glad that you lent into those directions, because basically the older character then becomes a proxy of how would the PCs interact with each other, but slightly differently. Erik?
I mean, it's hard, like, to have, it kind of just realizing that they were our older selves, it kind of put a new perspective on my very first interaction with Granite Man, and just like the fact that he like stops, I find that very interesting, like what that says possibly about the dynamic between those characters. And then I just write like all of the like wrecking shit up. I especially like the like smashing the spaceship to pieces.
Sorry.
Oh, we had a bull and we had a bull and we had a transform. Things were gonna break.
Yeah.
If you had a Nova,
Yeah,
things would blow up as
specifically-
well. But Melena?
Yeah, specifically because it's defined that it's hard to repair. It makes it even funnier.
Yep, that was the point. Hence the very vintage, very customized, very upgraded ship. Melena, what about you?
I did thoroughly enjoy this slightly like romantic undertone when Slugman turned his face inward and was like, "Wait, I could be something better." That was very entertaining to me. Honestly, I have bad short-term memory right now, but I did like a lot of just like the little like commentary step backs people make on the older versions. It was all very it was very fun. It was cool to play with that idea.
Cool. And Bilal, what about you?
It was absolutely the reveal that these people were our older selves. Like I was judged so smoothly and it was awesome. But I think what seals it for me was when Mrs. Mitchell just said, "Thank you for stepping in and save the day." I could see the veins popping. And all I wanted to do in that moment was be like, you mean collectively, right? But I just kept saying, I just kept
Yeah, because adults are absolute jerks in the system. Um, it, Adults are absolute jerks in the system, except when you expect them to be jerks, because then they're nice, because then you don't have a cause to rebel against. Because yeah, this system is
Mhm.
so much fun. Cool. My highlight was when like Slugman just goes, right, I'm gonna be the monster and just completely wreck everything. Like, yep, that is spectacular. That is precisely what the playbook was all about. And I've never seen that move used this dramatically before. Cool. So thank you all so much for playing. This has been an absolute blast. And I always say that I always enjoy running masks and so much fun, but like playing with all of you has been exceptionally like hilarious. But yeah, this brings us to the end of the Compulsion Light charity live stream. Thank you to my fellow players for joining me on this utterly buck wild adventure, and thank you also to our audience who've been staying around and watching this stream. In particular, thank you to all the wonderful people who donated. And Gregor, I believe you're the only one who hasn't donated anonymously. So thank you, Gregor, for donating, and we really appreciate that. And thank you also to everyone else who donated anonymously as well. We raised £150 for Empty Kitchens, Full Hearts, and this will go a long way in feeding people who are really having a hard time now because of the cost of living crisis that we're all facing, and people who are struggling with food poverty are sometimes at the receiving end of some of the worst inequalities in our society. And Empty Kitchens, Full Hearts are a small charity that is entirely volunteer led, that works not only with people who are experiencing food poverty, but also tries to advocate for better treatment of staff in the catering sector. And they do some fantastic work in the city and are very much part of the local community and community focused and community led. We really stand by these values that they advocate, and we're really proud to be supporting them. And we think they're doing some vital work. Thank you all so much for your generous donations. £150 is more than we were expecting to raise, and we are grateful to see your donations for this. Right. And besides that, I just have a few other announcements. So, as you know, we're organizing a series of events at Compulsion Light. Some of them are events like this, a live stream, but we also have a couple of panels tomorrow. I mentioned previously that Gregor is going to be one of our guests at the panel. That panel is at 11 a.m. UK time. You might have to do some maths to convert it to different time zones because I forgot to write those down on my notes. But Gregor is going to be joined by Morgan Davey, all the way from New Zealand, talking about A-State. A-State is now recently going to be kickstarted for its has been kickstarted for its second edition that'll be published soon. It's a cyberpunk game set in, well, a city that is very heavily inspired by Scotland. And it is one of the biggest upcoming releases in Scottish gaming, and we're delighted to have them on our panel tomorrow. That's at 11 a.m. And then at 1 p.m., we have another panel, which is called the Inter/National Connections in Tabletop Role-Playing. This features designers and creators from around the world, including Indrani Ganguly from India, Momatos from the Philippines, Wendy Yu from Brazil, and Yubi from Scotland, who are going to be talking about ways in which we can build connections and communities across different regions. And we've got 2 panels with guests from 5 different time zones, so please do come along to that. We've got quite a fun series of events tomorrow. So this panel will be at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. You can find information on our program, which Sophie has just linked in the chat just now. And finally, on Sunday at 1 p.m., we have some games happening in the afternoon. These are games which you can play because, you know what? It's not a convention unless you get to play the games yourself. And there's only so much fun you can have watching 5 people play online. So come along to that at 1 p.m. on Sunday. You can do that at the Compulsion Light Discord. There'll be links to that at the links to that in the program when you can go on our website. And yes, the panels will be happening on the same platform. It'll be happening on our Twitch page tomorrow. And we hope to see you all there. But before we wrap up, there are, of course, some of the most important announcements for me to make, and that is to thank my fellow players, Bilal, Melena, and Erik and Claire, for just joining me on this. Some of whom stepped in at the last minute. We really, really appreciate this, and it's great to have so many new people, so many new faces to put on events like this as well. And thank you also to Holly and Sophie for moderating the chat, and for all of your ongoing support behind the scenes. We could not have done this without you, and we really appreciate the effort you put in to making sure our chat and our community is safe and inclusive. And also, thank you so much, Claire, for carrying so much of this convention. Sorry, Claire, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say thank you to you for having a fantastic session and for kicking all this off with such wonderful enthusiasm that I know is going to continue into tomorrow and Sunday.
Thanks. That's kind of you to say, Claire. Which kind of makes it slightly awkward for me to finish that last thought, because I was going to say thank you so much, Claire, for carrying so much of this convention and for stepping up the way you did and making our wonderful makeshift logo, and helping so much behind the scenes. I could not have run this event without your support, and we really appreciate everything you do for Compulsion and all the social media stuff you've been carrying as well. Right, so that brings us to the end of the session, and I guess I'll see many of you tomorrow morning. And in the meanwhile, good night. I've been Vivek Santayana. I've thoroughly enjoyed GMing this, and I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow. Right.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.